In academia, plagiarism is generally frowned upon. If plagiarism were music, Harvard's first black female president, Claudine Gay, would be Beethoven. But due to the multiple layers of identity politics armor that Gay possesses, the elite Ivy League college gave her a pass. Let's be clear, Gay wasn't just lifting a line or two. She was grifting entire concepts. Think like Joe Biden the first time he ran for president. From doctoral theses to published articles, she was apparently on a cut and paste spree. Harvard kept her on with a slap on the wrist. Joining me to discuss this massive scandal is award-winning political scientist and author Dr. Carol Swain. She was a victim of Gay's plagiarism. She wrote a book entitled The Gay Affair, spelling out the saga and shedding light on President Gay, Harvard, and academic plagiarism. Dr. Swain joins us now. Dr. Swain, thanks so much for taking the time. The Gay Affair is a fascinating read. Tell my audience, what happened to you?
I was one of the people that Claudine Gay, the former president of Harvard University, was outed for plagiarizing. And there were about 47 instances of plagiarism found in her research. In the case of my work, it was in her dissertation, and it was my prize-winning first book. Wow.
And how did you find out that she had taken your material and passed it off as her own?
Well, the book is about what happened, and I was not the only person that was impacted, but it was December 10th, 2023, when I received a phone call that I describe in the book, and I was informed that the president of Harvard University had plagiarized my work. And I went to Christopher Rufo's X page, and he had an article, and my work was mentioned. And so the book talks about the steps I went through to try to get accountability. And one of the first things I did was to read her work, and I read her dissertation, I read her early articles, and initially had lawyers contact Harvard, and we went through a process. And so the book talks about copyright law, the limitations it poses, and just the whole problem of plagiarism in higher education.
When you brought this to Harvard and showed that she was passing off your ideas, your concepts as her own, do you feel as though Harvard dealt with that appropriately?
Well, again, it was very complicated because there were 47 instances of alleged plagiarism, and there were 5 verbatim involved in my work. But my contention in the book is that her dissertation used my prize-winning first book to set up a straw man, and she basically, her research question for her dissertation was framed around a conclusion in my book, Black Faces, Black Interests, the representation of African Americans in Congress. And so, again, the book is about more than Claudine Gay. It's about trying to hold Harvard accountable, because when she was exposed, they discounted what she said by reframing it as duplicative language without attribution.
Well, that just sounds like plagiarism to me. That sounds like a fancy Ivy League way to say plagiarism. And I think a lot of us can relate to what it would be like if someone stole a thing of yours, stole your car, stole your bike. But when someone steals your words and your ideas, it seems like a very different kind of feeling. I'd love you to share kind of what that meant to you when this idea, this concept you had was lifted by another.
First of all, plagiarism is not a misdemeanor, and it's not a felony. And so it's not a crime in the traditional sense. It's a breach of ethical standards and integrity. And in the past, colleges and universities, as well as journalistic organizations, they policed internally when these breaches occurred. And what I discovered was that was not the case involving my situation with Claudine Gay and many other people. And when I first found out about it, I thought, well, maybe it was an accident. But when I started reading her work, I became very troubled I didn't become angry until Harvard dismissed basically uh, the what I would call her crime, even though it's not a crime in the traditional sense, when they tried to redefine it as duplicative language without attribution. And she made some corrections, but she did not correct, as far as I know, anything that involved my work.
Before I let you go, Dr. Swain, President Trump has issued sweeping executive orders getting rid of DEI programs, ending affirmative action, and I wonder how you think academia will respond to this.
Well, they've already been trying to reframe what they do. And so there are many institutions that announced months ago that they were eliminating their DEI programs, but in most cases they were just mainly renaming what they were doing, and so they will have to be monitored very closely. I believe the president made the right decision, and in 2023 I published another book, The Adversity of Diversity, and I argued in 2023 that the Supreme Court's decision to strike down race-based affirmative action would spell the death of DEI programs, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that affirmative action's days were numbered. I didn't expect that it would come to an end so swiftly, because not only did President Trump eliminate DEI in federal programs, he also reversed affirmative action more broadly, and it will impact private institutions and corporations. Sure, yeah. They will have to rethink what they've been doing.
Well, and we want a system based on merit, and we want to judge people based on what's on the inside, the content of their character, not the mutable traits on the outside. Dr. Swain, thank you so much for writing this book, The Gay Affair. We encourage people to pick it up, and you'll learn a lot about the flow of information and how academia responds. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.